야, 드니 정말라 적바 델라가 삼주지인.
Good morning to everyone today.
드니다 대랑거 나초 드니 추츠드 드니 곤즈고요.
So our teaching for this morning is going to begin now.
드니 나초 대랑거 드니 추츠디 나라 가리드니 더 샤크요 제나 드니 쪼드다 나초 마치시그 나라 개보용난자 드니 두보용난자 그래서 상마 스소고 드니 냠린라 드니 파르칫 마용가 드니 그 탑시 어떤 지수 샤크요레.
So the contents or the subject of our teaching over the next couple of days is really about how, when in the case of either suffering or happiness, how to bring these to our practice and make it such that they don't present an obstacle to our practice. So what we are looking at is a way or a method for us to do this.
드니 가서 남긴이나 냠린 드니 약보 메나 내가 좀 멋지게 나라 요비드니 좋아가 나라 쇼이 등걸 디 마츠드니 드니 대화 또 참아 가서 남긴 드니 냠린 것들이 빠친다고 드니 조요래.
In our lives, if we do not have stable practice, then happiness and suffering present obstacles to us.
드니 쇼칭니 상로다나 가서 미심 제안드니 베드니 왕차 침보다 드니 니바 침보레.
On the one hand, our minds are extremely powerful.
드니 가서 잠발란데 약보조나 득보조나 데모조나 등을잔들이 조나 참아 가서 심 같잡자고요.
And whether in our world is good or bad, is pleasant or suffering, this is all determined by our minds.
드니 가서 멋지 그 소소한 건 초화가 나라더니 보용나 득보용나 대양 참아 가서 심 그조고요.
And the same for individual persons. Whether they have good feelings, pleasant feelings, or negative feelings, these two are determined by the mind.
드니 연디 드니 가서 심데 드니 쇼치니샤나페 왕차 침보 니바 침보 드니즈레.
So on the one hand, our minds are very powerful and dominating.
양 쇼치니샤나 가서 심데 드니 더 배양 니바 충충 드니 냠충 드니즈레.
On the other hand, though, our minds are very weak and feeble.
드니 니바 충충다 냠충 인제 그 임선 강레지나 배나 코랑 그 셈라 능물이오나 셈거나라 드니 양 코랑 그 대화 냠슴용나 대소 참마 코랑랑 그 탁주 드니 셰탑고요 말이 참마 슐올라 드니 땡요레스.
And the reason that we say that the mind is on the one hand weak and feeble is because regardless of whether it's suffering or happiness, it doesn't determine these qualities itself, or rather it doesn't determine it at the level of the mind, it locates these in the external world.
드니 대화 셈거나라 대화 용나양 드니 대화데 드니 영우보 젠 드니 그가 솔라서 쩌고요레 아솔라서 드니 코츠치고요레 마토바 코랑랑 거나니 대화 냠슴용아 드니 시탑고 문두증 아소 셈고.
So our mind is always looking for other things to give or provide us happiness. It's not able to provide us happiness itself.
드니 등물에 있나 대당라고래 가서 양 실로라 텐데 그거래 실로고 드니 무보초라 드니 양 텐니 양 등물 나바나서 드니 명거요래 디 값스 드니 소소 랑거 드니 등물티 파 만명와당 드니 그 촌전약보 양 가서 셈고 시탑고 만두지.
And it's the same with suffering too. Our minds locate suffering in external objects, and so our minds are not able to control the suffering that arises.
드니 코랑 그 대화 냠스용나 등물 냠스용나 참마 드니 소소랑 그 탑잡 못합 소소랑 그 드니 왕차라라 전 마타바 참마 드니 쇼록 드니 무보초 지라 드니 파르 드니 로데 근켄 셔로라 땡gonken 셔로 그 지슨 로gonken 드니즈레 티인디 디차니시나 가서 셈데 벤나데 베드니 냠충 왕차 메사 드니즈레.
So, because it can't determine its own happiness and suffering, it's always locating these in external objects. Our mind is something that follows external objects and relies on this. So, from this perspective, we can say that the mind is rather feeble and powerless.
Tini terang aso sem zeni tini shadya te kangla zega yore zena te ngaso labati la zega yore zena te mares.
So, in talking about the mind today, what we are not intending to mean is the brain.
Tini ngaso ko nyang te la zega yore zena te yang mares.
And we're not talking about our actual hearts either.
Tini kangre zena tini sem zea te korang tini te ngubu tini zireze pena ngarang sogo lipo tang drawa shini korang yang tini ngubu tini zireze tini te la ze ngaso yit jishipa yit zea tini te la zega yore.
So what do we mean then when we talk of the mind? Well, the mind is a kind of matter, just like our bodies are matter, so too are our minds a form of matter. And so what we are really talking about is the consciousness, our mind consciousness.
Teni ngaso sim te korang go teni pena dewa nyamsim yunga, dungar nyamsim yunga, yang na sim ganang la njikchak teni mangbo yunga. So 상마 때니 코랑 랑거 때니 촌진 자반입 시탑고요 말이스.
So regardless of what arises in the mind, whether it be happiness or suffering or fear, all of these emotions are ones that the mind is not able to control itself.
텐디 엔디 티니 슐로코 티니 ngupun도 솔라 지스 티니 파르 코랑 데와요나 등머리오나 직작요나 치나 티니 슐로코 ngu부수 지스
Our mind follows objects in the external environment, and the happiness and suffering of fear in the mind follows these objects.
Teni ngaso semde teni 슐로코 ngupu nala jisun drone teni dewa tang kepa tang teni yung gona teni te tsawane yung thap mandukse.
If our mind is dependent on external objects for its happiness and so forth, then these things are never going to arrive.
Teni dewa kien matipi gemsende kangrezena teni 슐로코 ngupu pe ngerwa chimboreze ngerwa ndamra mangboreze.
And the reason that our minds will not achieve happiness in this way is because the external environment is subject to constant change.
Teni ngerwa mangboyen sarti teni tin gerwa ti pelna talon rapozula teni ngubo chik ngala teni chorwa kepo demo teni yonayang teni lo jima nangla teni ti ngarangla teni chorwa dewa ta kepa tirthap ko ya mareze.
So because of the change in the external world, something that I have this year that gives me a feeling of happiness may not next year.
Bernardini ngaso pesho tangwa kapra yinandra teni dindi ge chimtri yinandra ndaso tangbu ngaso go teni lagla yongwi nerkabna teni khoranga ngaso simla gawa tang teni chuandra go teni terke yores.
So the various phones and computers that we have, when in the beginning, in the initial stage when we have these things, they give us happiness and pleasure.
Teni los chik jila teni yon dele yaks korang so lege yores.
And then 1 year later, an even better version of these objects comes out.
Teni ti kaps ngarang yinda manda teni dele yak te ngarang ka thopgo gore mato te mathobna ni ngarang sim gawa chawane shitap ko mares.
And then we think, I must have that better version. If not, my mind will not be happy.
Teni karsan kari ngaso teni di kashigo teni chongkang kanala koso di ngochu choda teni nyam ngaso kapdar shiri ti kaps nge koso la kyocho teni kashigo teni ngaso chowa kanala shokchini pe tab debo mambo zogo yore shokchini zambalang ka mambo la sem kanala nyomong bata dungar yang mambo keke yore zi teni labayense.
Recently, when I visited Apple in California, I had an opportunity to talk with some of the teachers and leaders in the company, and I said to them, on the one hand, your Apple products have given great convenience to many people in the world, but on the other hand, your products have also generated a lot of affliction and suffering for people too.
야, 그래서 그때 인기를 정도스.
And they said, yes, you're probably right.
드니 가서 샤르쇼라 드니 빰주르 드니 약보 멘컨 드니 그 먹하시고 드니 당보 드니 가서 데 그시 카버 드니 지바 나바 그시 카버 나바 드니 용이 값스 드니 코랑소 뇨야 드니 빰주르 메니 먹하시고 소소 런금 카마 퀴르 중니 드니 디 럼바 드니 데 뇨송스 카버
In Asia, some people who are economically deprived, in order to be able to buy an Apple 4 or Apple 5 as soon as it comes out, have sold their own kidneys in order to come up with the money.
Yeah. 이나 드니 로 찍다 드니 그 로니 잠스 그 지니 드니 양 그시 카버 드바 드니 톤송스.
However, after 1 or 2 years, then the Apple 6 comes out.
야, 드니 코랑 나발라 가바 메바착송스. 나발라 머간켄레소 나발라 그시 카버 나발라.
And then people no longer like the Apple 5.
드니 양 드바 뇨고 요레스.
And they have to buy now the Apple phone version 6.
옛날 드니 머스질라 드니 퀴르 니마토요 마레스. 지데 좀 초고 마레스.
However, a person only has 2 kidneys, and so there's not anything they can do. And their mind feels great suffering. And their feelings towards the Apple 5 completely vanish. They've got no good feeling at all.
든지 인디드니 가초온 초왕나라 요 댕켄데서 참아 따르탄라 보이나 참아 가초 사르거든이 락설라티니 쇼데야 든지 망치슈 데레제 가초 초왕나라 베쇼 땅아데서.
And everyone is really the same in this way in terms of our reliance on science and technology.
드니 사르거디 톤지데서 드니 코랑 로리 진라마라 망보 일주기암니 든지 로운도서.
And technological products every single year continue to be upgraded and made better.
And
as soon as a new version comes out, we don't like the old version. And if we are able to get a new version for temporarily at least, we feel happy. But after a few months, gradually our mind loses this sense of happiness. And we need to get a new one.
Tani tinji indi tini ngaso sem ganala tini ngupos chik ngaso sem ganala yin rambu tini demo tang kibo tini chorwa tini yongya ngupos menduze ngaso chowa ganala.
So within our lives there is no object that can provide our minds with long-term lasting happiness.
Tani ngaso mi mangbo tini ti gimsen ngaso lakser yakbo yongken dang samlo yakbo yongken ga tini mu mangbo ti nil gimsen te ha go yores.
And people who understand a great deal about technology and so forth understand this pattern.
Teni ti gimsen de hago sari jini teni koranso sarwa mambo zo yores.
And because they understand this principle, they constantly invent new versions of things.
Teni ngaso sarwa tiso matubna teni semgonala gabo ta trobo meti teni ngaso kable mambo jab tiso mambo tangni teni sarwa ti toya chet teni jigyores.
And because if we are not able to attain these things, we do not feel happy. Therefore, we work very hard. We expend a lot of time in order to obtain new ones.
대 가서 빼리지. 대 빼자 바리. 대 잡고서 끝나서 소화가 나라 응고 참아라 인결와 몸본로고요. 그래.
So this is just an example, it's just an analogy. But just like this, all of the objects in our lives are constantly undergoing much change.
드니 결과된지 몸보 송살티 가서 셈티 디지라 직니 텐디 조고디 드니 응고부터 나라 가서 셈라티 양보 대와 드니 겐켄 데스티 드니 테르tumken 어떤지 응고보 시장 매네 응고보 참만 결과한도디 가서 셈라티 지라 드니 결과된지 로요.
And if our minds must follow or rely on these objects that are constantly changing, then there is no way that our minds will achieve happiness in this way. Because there is not one thing, given the fact that they are constantly changing, that will be able to bring happiness to our mind.
드니다 가서 셈 그나라더니 데모 용다 뭐용 거더니 왕차대 가서 셈 랑라요 말이지 가서 셈 랑라티 왕차대 만두지 나랑 데모 조야다 껴보 조야 왕차대 가서 셈 거랑라 만두지.
So in this situation, the power to determine our own happiness and joy does not reside in our own minds.
당 가서 셈 원하티 왕차대 쓸라요 그러잖아. 가서 셈 티니 데모 용 뭐용 드머 용 뭐용 왕차대 드니 실로 공부보대수 랑나요 그래서.
So if this power doesn't reside in our minds, then where does it reside? Well, in this situation, the power to determine our happiness and suffering resides in external objects.
드니 든지 임비 김선지 드니 가서 실로 공부보수 토라 드니 가서 야르게 mam보탕야다 상로 mam보탕야다 디 돈라 드니 레카 mam보레야다 디수 mam보탕야 든지 시요 그래서.
And it's because we think like this that we expend so much time and energy in improving the external environment and thinking about how to make it better.
드니 딘디 인디 드니 무실로 공부보대서 간디 고니 야르게 타나야 딘딘 라오스 그냥 맞서 셈가나야 텔리장 욕다 망즈 거서 지에요 그래서 욕다 텔리 망보용 건도.
The more we go about improving and making better our external environment, the greater trouble we bring our minds.
다 든지 인디 가서 간디 치고 오래제나 빼장나지 빼장나 가서 무스지 그때니 소소한 거 멋지가 나니 되니 데모 용 뭐용 껴보 용 뭐용 등머리 용 뭐용 대소 참마 앞에다 무잠바시 그때니 라라요나 왕샤데 참마 무잠바시 그 라라요나 드니 무티티니 마소라 양포 마치나 ngaso mtsega nangla tini demo dang che boyong tab ko mendo waze perna ngaso moschi ko tini dekhe tsama tin pombo ta wasikala la yona tini pombo de tini mayak bo tini ze mayna ngaso mtsega nangla dekhe yong tab ko mareze pe jarnas.
So what should we do then? An example, let's just say, for example, that all of our happiness and joy and suffering in life relied on another person. The power to determine these feelings for us lay in the hands of someone else. Then if we were not nice to them, if, for example, the power to determine our happiness rested with a leader, for example, if they weren't a good person or if we weren't nice to them, then we would never be able to achieve happiness.
Tini te dembareze ngaso muschik tini demo chepo yong da mayong chama mi jambachik la tini tar gona ngaso mtsega na la tini demo chepo yong pe khambore te dong thola tini jez.
And this is very true. If all of the happiness and pleasure in our lives relied on someone else, then this would be an extremely difficult situation.
Tini te tang jabu thoni ngaso kangre ko go ndugzena ngaso sem ga nala demo yong da mayong te khorang rang ga thakship matab khorang rang ga tini chonjun shi matabni tini sholo ko ngubo chola tini wangsha chama tini sholo ko ngubo chola che jagna ngaso
So in exactly the same way, if our minds are not able to determine for themselves whether they achieve happiness or pleasure, if they grant or concede all of the power to determine these things to external objects, then our minds will never achieve happiness.
드니 다상아 저 간디시고 그러잖아. 드니 티 왕차디 가서 서 랭고 요레스. 티 왕차디. 아주 소소 심 데모단 게 보용야 왕차디. 실로 공부 소라 마트. 실로 공부 소 산이 왕차디 서 랭니. 왕차디 아주 심 코랑 거. 드니 종고 요레스. 왕차디 심 코랑라 요고 요레스.
So what do we need to do then? Well, what we do need to do is to seize the power back, to seize back from the external objects the power to determine our own happiness. This power needs to be held by our own minds.
드니 왕차디 드니 코랑 랑라 요소나 드니 코랑 랑거 드니 셈 드니 데모용나 개보용나 랑거 드니 참마 탁자 탑거리 드니 랑거 드니 다 강거 샤와 강거 토라이나 드니 데 접탑거리 드니 요소나 왕샤 랑거 수소 랑거 랑라 요소나 드니 셈 코랑랑 여랑보 와르다 데 데모다 개보드니 용 조건도
Once our mind is able to hold the power to determine its own happiness, then happiness is something that it decides for itself. In holding this power to determine its own happiness, then the mind can actually achieve happiness in a long-term sense.
아다 딘디 인디 마초 실로 공부보디 코랑 간디티니 야르게 타나티니 초코레 간디이나 초코레 데라테니 아주 셈거 나라티니 뇽자 용 마용다 셈거 나라티니 등머리 용 마용테 아주 셈랑 거 탑자고 그래.
In any case, regardless of how we go about improving objects in the external world, whether or not our minds experience trouble and suffering as a result of this is something that we need to determine ourselves.
데닝아서 공 다리 공도 샤송와 베르나티님 추찬도 저거 아주 소화나라 답디 보조고요. 제때 있나한데 소라티니 아주 셈가나라 등으로만 보는 거요래. 드나 오나 아주 무슨 마브조나 티니 아주 셈 데모치 보는 거래지나테 말이지.
So as we said before, devices and gadgets such as this on the one hand bring us convenience, but on the other hand bring us happiness. Well, what then should we do? If we were no longer to produce these things, would we no longer feel suffering?
드닝 아주 딩 아주 셈가나라 등을 마브조나 영 잠바시 그 아주 셈가나라 등으로 저거래. 즉 말이
No, it wouldn't stop us feeling suffering, because if we no longer derived suffering from this, some other kind of object would bring us suffering. So it's exactly the same.
든지 인딩 아주 셈 닥보 약보 잡타나 드닝 아주 온 소화가 나라든지 든지 잠으로 만보 요나요. 디경고 말에 아주 셈가 나라 디모케보 시탑 그래.
If we are able to properly look after our minds, then it doesn't matter whether there are things like this in our external environment, we will be able to achieve happiness in our mind.
드니 셈 아주 손전다 드니 때 약보시 마타나 아주 온 소화가 나라 드니 우보 뇽뇽 막도 메나 디 뇽뇽 디 거라라요 셈가 나라요 등으로 좋은 뜻이 즉 말이.
And just the same, if we're not able to control our minds, then even an extremely small object in our external environment is able to induce in us suffering.
아주 베나 산지 샤타타 바 지고 비캅스 드니 잡도 중화 촐라 드니 우붕 요 말에 할리바 뇽뇽레스.
When the time that the Shakyamuni Buddha lived, the monks did not have many possessions at all.
코로나 곰바 견지 요래더니 자마자사 던라보 드니 자마자사 요래 데마토바 드니 망보요 말에 아수진 던진라보다 전라문다 망보요 말에스.
So they had the clothes that they wore and they had their begging bowls, but they didn't have things like iPads and so forth.
야, 옛날 코랑 같더니 자마자사 같더니 자 포로아티 코랑라 까블레 망보 잡 뜨거요 그래서 까블레 망보 조요 그래서.
However, those begging bowls that they had caused a lot of problems for the monks.
드니 가서 디 값을 다 너도자마자 사 말이다 너단 잡고래지.
So the bowls that they had weren't exactly like this, but similar to this.
드니 디 값을 드니 너 사고 그래서 사.
And they were made from earth, clay.
되니 실록라 찌잡니 낙본들이라고 저거래서.
And then they rubbed like a black varnish on the outside.
되니 대소 상마티 값스 되니 게르노서 고소랑가 락바고 저거래서.
And in those days, the bowls were actually handmade by the monks themselves.
되니 시아알레카 건가 돌아나 따르탄라고 되니 락서다 대소 요 말지 티값스.
And in those days, they didn't have the technology available to them that we do now.
되니 딘디스 저거나 대스 갑리 카본라고 요래서.
So it was true that to make a bowl like this was a bit of trouble.
되니 때요비 점선지 되니 뭐 가시 그런 거 포르와텔라 심 그나라 점바 침보요래서.
So for this reason, some people had very strong attachment in their minds to their bowls.
되니 때요비 점선지 값직라 되니 상지 거종라 되니 랍도 종아치 시송스.
Then one day, a monk in the midst of the Shakyamuni Buddha passed away.
되니 시위 값스 그런 거 포르와텔라 심 착득.
And at the moment he died, he had a great attachment for his bowl in his mind.
되니 지스 코랑 되니 쪽착 되니 기네 되니 그런 거 포로아가 나라 되니 르 되니 그 제와 렌송제니 되니 송요레스.
And it said that in his next life, when he was reborn, he took the form of a snake lying in the begging bowl.
아야, 되니 엔데 되니 가서 우부 뇽뇽 있나 가서 데모용 거래잖아. 대양 말했어.
So to say that simply having few objects would make us happy is not true. This is not the case.
되니 우부 망보빼 망보 가서 소화나라 용나 되니 양 가서 셈도 인담다 되니 득보다 능머다 욕다용 거래잖아. 대양 말했어.
And it's also not the case that having a great deal of objects in our lives necessarily brings us suffering and trouble.
다 워낙 가래리잖아. 되니 가서 셈 닭보 약보 잡트나
And so we can say then, if we're able to look after our minds properly, then having a lot of, it's not a problem if we have a lot of possessions.
But
if we're not able to properly look after our minds, then even a very small number of objects will bring us great trouble.
Teni tendri yensonti danga su tirip jidamba jogit ba jirga ba to mambo zkanala mo chama ga teni ngubo go thola shig mambo jabares.
From the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries onwards, people have exerted a lot of energy in respect of material possessions.
Teni zole sarji tarni teni me mambo go teni ta chalang ramra mambo zoares.
And from the time of the Industrial Revolution onwards, many objects have been produced. So in terms of material objects, there has been great progress. But from this point onwards, our attention to the mind has correspondingly decreased. So for this reason, everyone around the world now has a lot of objects and possessions, but they are not happy in their minds.
임바데 가서 미 망보즈 그더니 하고요 말에 삼로 땅거 하고나요 거랑서 뒤돌아더니 하고나요 당린 맞지 어떤 립신이다 띠미 잠바즈 그가라 득보조송 야난디 수속된 가랑라 득보조송 야 딘딘다오 삼네더니 참아 파라 짐슨데 참아 잔락 잔고라 파르 jak요레스.
So not having happiness in our minds, many people don't realize, in fact, that the happiness or the lack of happiness originates in the mind. And even if people understand or know this, they're not actually able to accept it. So we habitually locate the blame on someone else or locate it in the external world. We're constantly placing the reason for our lack of happiness or our suffering on other people or other sources.
Tini Gimson suso rang demo dan kepo mayong wa tini Gimson zo te suso rang ka sem ka nala yo pa te mako mashi tini mi jamba si ka thola ti Gimson so par jamba ngo la ja tini she yondi tini ti Gimson ji da zo ti jarshi thola tini nyokda mambo yung de yores ngama yang yung gore ta yang yung yores.
So it's for this reason that our lack of happiness, our experience of suffering, not realizing that or understanding that this originates in our mind and placing the blame for it on others or on other objects, that we have great trouble in our minds. This causes great trouble. It's caused trouble in the past and it continues to do so now.
And in
the future, the trouble will be even more.
Ti Gimson kangre resena nga chu mi lakba na la tini panchen chikla nyukta zoya ga tini lakcha ti tini pe ndram mambo tini ta chak sar songs.
And the reason that this tendency will cause more problems in the future is because the objects that cause problems between humans are being produced in great number.
Tene nga chu pe na jarchi thola dutrum gum soncha zo mashok zeni tini mambo lap kundu was.
Gang su deni lab machoksis.
Dutrum soncha.
Su deni dini zo machoksis.
Jarchi thola dutrum gum soncha.
So in the international arena, there is a lot of discussion, or there's a lot of. It is frequently said that nuclear weapons should not be used.
Yena nga chu tini dutrum soncha zoya ti chu sem gu tini to chik thola tini ramra o tini trabdik shini zo yore sim dutrum soncha zoya ga sim te chonjum shego te je ga mare nga chu.
Or rather, it is said that nuclear weapons shouldn't be manufactured. However, what is not mentioned is the mind that wishes to produce nuclear weapons and the mind that determines to manufacture these weapons.
Teni mi tini sem go teni dutrum soncha magzowa yana zona yang pesho matang wa ti thola thapsi chak yang yo mare.
And there is no method advocated for the mind not manufacturing, having the mind not manufacture nuclear weapons, or if the weapons are manufactured, having the mind not use them.
Teni tedan rapo nga chu teni pe na zambalong chi ko khori ko wang du china namshi teni trombo chakne teni nyenka mambo yung go yores.
And it's the same in terms of global warming in the environment, which is causing a lot of trouble.
Ti yena nga chu shulu ko thola pe na teni tam khaw changma teni zoya ta khaw ko nala tin bakchok mambo me pa ti thola chanjin che go teni mambo zegen dos.
And so there's a lot of discussion about what we can do to reduce pollution in the environment and make it clean and so forth.
Teni shulu ko khori ti tolo mambo she denken ga sim tela chunjun she go zeni te chike yang zege yo mare.
But in terms of all of these people who are focused on the external environment, no one is talking about how they should control, or the necessity for them to control their minds.
Teni ti thola teni thapsi yang teni tang yo mare.
And no one's recommending any method or approach for doing so.
Teni ti thola thapsi matang ti teni shawa leka kari she dena teni yakbo yung yo mare.
But if there is no method or approach advocated, then regardless of what we do, no good result will be achieved. So this is an example, sort of a macro or large-scale example. But on a micro or smaller scale, in terms of our own lives, not being able to look properly after our own minds will cause great trouble. And it's in respect of this problem that 2,500 years ago the Buddha had a lot to say.
Teni ti jila teni ngacho teni bog nangla yana teni yang bog lama chogo nangla yang teni ga teni ta ngacho terang terang siapa ndo pe na teni kirdu lamkir sheluk ke teni ga ta jung teni chong chong pe mambo yorese lama chogo sombom ga nangla mambo ndugse.
And from this time onwards, among various Tibetan lamas and masters, such as texts that we are looking at today, Transforming Suffering and Happiness, small, short texts just like this, many Tibetan lamas produced.
Teni koso teni te semte yang karchimbo yinze, zo te seminze teni labko yore.
And what they all said was that our minds, the mind is extremely important.
Teni ta tung ngubu thola kanti rezina ta ngacho teni ka par teni ramnim rabo domnim rabo she go ndozi chini sem dak bo jawa ni ne ngubu dak bo jawa ni ka te tu nyambon rawo tartan rabo na ngacho teni go ndozi.
So in actuality, what we really need to do is establish a balance between the two, a balance between looking properly after our minds and looking properly after material things or the material world.
Teni ngaso on soaga nangla teni tsar ka laksar ka thonjin ramra pe mambu yore o teso sangma ngaso pe shutang ka men teso sangma ngaso semla dungur zo nduzena deyang jikam mandus.
So saying all the various scientific technological products in our life, we won't use them, they cause us so much suffering, this is not a correct approach.
Teni yang ngaso teni sim Gandhi na te chi kyong ma re so nga so sholo ko ngubo yak bo yo go re teni ngubo yo na tin de re teni ze na yang de mandus.
But it's also not correct to say, well, as for our minds, how they are, it doesn't really matter. The most important thing is that the our material objects are good. This is also not an appropriate approach.
Teni indi teni ngaso ndi nangla teni tapshi kachin de te changmalang ngotro
So there are a few methods or approaches contained in this text, and I would like to introduce them to everyone.
Teni shirtang ngaso teni bog teni lama cho nangla teni ta kirding nyamning shil kundindi son pe haliba mambondus ngai tari kong la shapati mambondus.
As I just mentioned before, Tibetan lamas throughout the Tibetan tradition have frequently taught on transforming suffering and happiness. Generally speaking, the content of their teachings is the same. So what they all essentially say is that when suffering arises, we should not allow it to harm us. So and what they also teach is that when happiness and pleasure arise, they too should not become obstacles to our practice. So they emphasize the need for suffering and happiness to be made equal.
Di nani tari nga tsutini to do trupchin rinpoche gatini sombi tini kirdik nyamni di lamkir chelu zundu ta di nang don te nga tsu tari koduk che yores.
So the teaching that we have arranged for today is the teaching on transforming suffering and happiness by Dudrupchen Rinpoche.
Tani tari nga tsundu yige maran doni tsukasiri chiripsha nagasare yona nangdon tsungro sha nagasare. Samai lasu tini nga ngaran di long yo yige maran don shara tsama long tom ro kore ina lasu tini shina gangde lasu ya
Data long do ge
nga ta yige ndi mara nge maran don na tini tsama la long tom ro kore tini nge maran don ni tini ti olan reshi jabne ro yensi
da tama deni chiz deni chatsang thambo long ji don
tama
That's it. Okay. So Campbell is going to teach the text by first reading several lines at a time and then explaining them, so you'll receive the transmission.
Tani bogo lama chogo tani songba nani shirtang chama tani ngarang chu to tana pe tani tang zapo tani yakpon dukta nga chu le tangbu pa tani zika tani nyamlin chena do tu chiram bo chega te songban de pe yakpon dus.
So among all of the Tibetan texts and teachings that I've read, there are many that are profound and deep, but certainly for beginners, the absolute best is this teaching by Dundrupchen Rinpoche.
Tani nda nga chu nyamlin tani yakpo yongkin tani zika tani nyamlin chena shitab kundu tani nyamlin menken ga tani nga chu shirtang ga mo tani ga pesho tana tangtab kundu.
This is a teaching or a practice that can be done by extremely good or experienced practitioners. It's also a practice that can be made use of by ordinary people as well.
Tani nda nga chu tani chupa mainken tani ga yona tani sosorang kan chowa ga nangla tani simkipo yongya dugbo mangbo mayongya tani ga chit nyamlin chena zhikris.
And it's also fine for a non-practitioner to use this method in order to bring happiness to their lives and reduce suffering.
Tani nyamlin tani te jenken tani zi yenayang tani soso tani sim tambo zika thone tani nyamlin chena nyamlin la yargin ro re ma tok pa yang aso dungur chongso yong na yang sem ga nala ma ke pa yong yang tani ramra yong dena nyamlin yang yargin ro tab ka mandus.
And for a practitioner, if a practitioner is able to practice this method with a really stable mind, then this will be of benefit to their practice. Their practice will improve. If when we encounter suffering, our minds become all worked up, then there is no way for our practice to get better.
Pakbab shanri zi wangshik la ganshik takta paro dewi danger jang jantak dungmar kirwim chokta wobgelwa tuji chenpu yondan shindab dripa gang tena rangab derdik pang ten dikpa yin ji chirka sombi yondan jisa tambar sheti tambar namgi nyenku lakchan jikti na rantang tam tambar kirdik lamkir ki manga chatsam jobur shati te la nili dungmar lamda kirsa tang kipa lamda kirsa ni tangbo la ani kunzup tang tondam la temba teni din nangdong ka nangla teni nga cho tangbo dungmer teni ta shongna te teni ta so semla mano pa shil teni ga nangdong shokshik te res nangdong tangbo de
당이 체크 되니 돈바데 되니 인지케도 규권에 올라세. Okay.
네, 가자도 지나 돈바도 먹고.
올라세. So Campbell just read the homage and the statement of intent on page 7 of your texts. Read the two parts, how to use suffering as the path and how to use happiness as the path, and then just finished below the each one is approached firstly through relative truth and then through absolute truth. So Campbell said that one of the one thing that is emphasized in this content is how when suffering arises not to allow it to present harm.
Teni nga tso dungmer teni mar mepap zoya tela teni strictly teni nga tso tabam thombo tongba nyet teni togne teni mepap zoya tang ni te nga tso teni samlo tang sar la jirchu jamne mepap zoya teni ni ndos.
So in terms of eliminating suffering, there are two approaches that we have. The first is a very high or advanced view of emptiness. The second is making changes to the way that we think.
당보는 심전당 심전 마인빈 세바 남숑 더 dumul kinde신 바진 족발라 로kom나 일킨 참오리장 심기즈는 침보 게티 데르드 근데시 강라 콤바템 펜로와 추니딘베소 데터 름기 콤버톰 펠티 지직나 강숑 파르치르 이드므데반 림비 길손이 데비코크 이드메파지고 데나랑글로 콤스르기 란이온바 마시퍼 슈르기 켄 코니 니르존웨 Shurula Kongchu, so Lengan Dumerki Meshi Muntatum Shipper Jitis now a Dralam Shavayin, 닝미 셈진 드머 기저비 짐슨 수술 똑비 수술 똑비 또만 반달라 트 요비 집트 시구 디입시르 자당 나돈 라속비 와치치 머스비 돈 나돈 대덕 숑와 독바당 신문중화 머시치 대덕 람드비 와치트 머니팔라 샤오 대트르공와나시 당아소 초아가 나라 남긴 되니 노판자마자 망부 용거레스.
So usually or generally in our lives, a great deal of harm does take place.
배당아서더니 몇당 미parla 양 되니 노판자마자 망부 용거도스.
For example, harm that arises from our interpersonal interactions.
되니 깝깝스는 되니 가솔라 심 마르강킨 된지가 못수 되니 가솔라 양 노파 조거레스.
Occasionally, harm arises from people that we don't like so much.
되니 깝깝스는 되니 가솔 배나 겸상거 되니 남미다와 된지다 양나 수소란 거 조분라고 된지가 빼 되니 더 남진이나 심tum부 된지 임바가 못소에나요 대가서 남진 되니 심 가솔라 되니 노파양 몸부 대닥라 되니양 되니 연구요레스.
Another source of harm or suffering are family members and friends, people with whom we usually have harmonious relationships.
되니 카시는 노파 카시는 미잠바서 가솔라 치트 되니 노파 주니 된지 양 셰거요리 디톱 된지 치트 노파 주니 가솔라 노파 연구요 된지 요레스 베나 마잠바 가솔라 머강 켄다고 된지나 치트 노파 조리 된지 요레스.
And there's also harm that arises sometimes from the intentional actions of people who don't like us. So harm that arises in this way.
되니 배나 가서 낭민자다 조본자다 된지 망치슈는 되니 가솔라 치트 되니 된지가 노파 조요 말레스.
In most cases, our family members and friends, they don't go about intentionally harming us.
옛날에 되니 고랑초가 레가레르다 가자더니 샤땅자오다 된지 토네 양아솔라 양 남진 되니 더 셈거토라 마키바다 등거다 되니 망부 연구요레지.
Despite this, the things they do and the things they say often bring us suffering and unhappiness.
되니 대소소란 거 상로 땅나가 좀 소위나라 망부요레 소소가 냠뇽 것도네 베사로레.
And I'm sure this is something, if you think about it, you'll be very clear about in our lives. There are many things like this. I'm sure you all have experience of it.
되니 가서 낭추고 되니 샤바티 참아 거리르지나 가서 따따가 되니 우요 그 네서 가서 냠스뇽 데바 텔란 레시 잡고요. 레지테 우요 그 네서 텔란 레시 잡고 그래서 가서 낭추고 랍데바데.
In terms of what Buddhist is fundamentally oriented to explaining is our current reality, reality as it is.
되니 때마다 좀 소화가 나라 싸만이 되니 통진매바, 륵진매바, 냠스뇽진매바 되니서 되니 시작해요 말해서.
So it doesn't address those things that we've never seen or heard or experienced in our lives at all.
어떤지 인디 되니 가서 너수 거때 가서 수소란 거 소화가 나라 당잡나 더 수소란 거 망보더니 하 냠뇽 거 고래 가서 이게 그 돌아 뇽뇽뇽뇽 맞고요 말해 수소란 거 당잡고 그래서.
So it's necessary then for you to think and reflect about your own feelings based on your own experience. The words that we have in this text are just very few, so it's necessary to reflect about one's own experience.
되니 매 마임 바페나 쪽착소에 나더니 가솔라 양 남진 노파티야 페나더니 장원자다 양 장원거 되니 가솔라 되니 소다 반자다 양나더니 수수고 첨거 나라 조마 총총 되니 요반자 양나 수수고 되니 슐록거 되니 디 덤라 메도거 덤라가 나라요 쪽착 총총 요니요 데 수수고 소화가 나라 데지 지도 노파자가 되니 차 찬삭 되니 게 앉아오 되니 매 마임 바가 쪽착소 라티네요.
And there's also harm that arises from non-humans, from animals, even small insects like mosquitoes or ants in our home, small creatures and insects in our garden, their bites and stings. So there's harm that also arises from non-human sources.
되니 깝깝스 가서 되니 더 응보 심진 많이 바거든요. 응우보 촐라테 그 때문에 양아 촐라 노바 양한테니 용거랬어요.
And from time to time, there's also harm that comes from non-sentient being sources.
베르나가츠데니 데니 레고이 값스데니 짐츠 터소데니 약바 마요나 카시티 톨라데니 스트롤랑레데니 마르탄라 잡거요레스.
디 균진치레 데니 야포
레카레폴레 마타브나.
Oh, let's say. For example, some people, in doing work on their computer, if the computer doesn't respond well, they get angry and smash their computer on the ground.
데니 가서 카버 잡니 데니 파르쇼고 무티 톨라 스트롤랑나 카버 잡탕라 잡거레스 가서.
Or other times when we are speaking on the phone and get angry with the person we are speaking to, we smash our phone on the ground.
데니 탕라 잡세비 지니 양아서 셈나라 뇨바케요레스.
However, after we do smash it on the ground, we give rise to regret in our minds.
양 카버 뇨고레 골모모 톨록탄 거레스.
Got to buy a new phone and have to waste a lot of money.
데니 양 등물은 니바스 용거레스.
And so then a secondary suffering arises.
데니 시네 데니 노바데서 가서 무임바 쪽착 연바당 쪽착 마임바다 데스 성마가 나니 노바 망보 용거 너진 소화가 나라.
So in our lives, a lot of harm and suffering arise, whether it be from human or non-human sources.
데니 던디나라 샤요리 심진당 심진 마임빈 세와 남숑지 데니 심진 연바가 노바 심진 마임바가 노바 데니 가서 남용나 데니 디값스 땅 아랑서 데니 셈가나네 데니 조고야데 강레제나 가서 등을 총총 데니 노바 총총서 용나요 데니 데라 오다 나랑라 노바 킹드 나랑 데니 데 즈금 문득 삼네 심라 마르가와 데니 제데나 데니 등을 데 치치치치치치친로요리.
So the first line of the bottom paragraph on page 7, whenever we are harmed by sentient beings or anything else, what this is talking about is whenever suffering arises, what do we need to do? Or how should we respond? Even if it's a small kind of suffering, if we think, oh, this is suffering, it's harming me, it's not good, etc., then our suffering will only become greater or stronger.
데니 덴디 엔딩 아초 디캅스 띵 아초 셔당랑 아초 가리 삼거리즈나 데니 아촌 초와가 나라 데니 미엔나 쪽쪽 잠바엔나 덴디가 노바당 데니 응부 쪽쪽 마임바고 데니 노바 데서 상마 파 메바시니 노바 데서 상마 메바시니 데니 나랑 데모당 켐포 덴디 졸고 삼네 아초 덴디 삼데요레스.
So we habitually think that regardless of whether it's suffering or harm that comes from other people or animals or simply objects, we habitually think that we need to entirely get rid of these things in order for us to feel happy. Even though we might think in this way, it's entirely impossible for this to actually happen.
다른 가서 잠볼랑가 사차 강란조난자 드니 진리 드니 코리그스 그나라에 난자 데소소라드니 노파드니 메바치경 만두지.
Wherever we go in the world, regardless of what kind of environment we find ourselves in, it's impossible for there to be no harm whatsoever.
노파 요야티 동무부 토라레스 동무부 노파 시점 메바드니 시탑고 말이 동무부 토라드니 요바든지스레.
Harm is reality. There's no possibility of changing it. It is the nature of reality.
yendan aso tartatini gol goya de ganrezena kar chishu de ganrezena nopa de sola tenni ngasola dumur yongda mayong ote susu simla thyores.
What we do need to understand, however, is that, or what is most important for us to understand is that whether or not these sources of harm cause us suffering is something that relies or depends on our minds.
Dinji ending ngaso godinin choa nala ngaso la no pa shin ke chigyang me pa shi o changma de ngaso la tini phamba dumkhan dinji su she gona chawane yung mercy bazare si jang shi thap ko mendus.
it is entirely impossible for us to have a situation where there is no one whatsoever in our lives who harm us, and where every single person in our life works for our benefit. No one is able to establish a situation like this.
Shigpo Gandhi in Nanja, Wancha Gandhi Chimbo, Laba Nalayo Nanja, Dini Nyanjak Gandhi Chimbo Nanja, Dini Sina, the Jupta Menduas, and Gatsu Samala Samlotanda, the Hagori, Dini Wancha Chimboyona, Tela Nopa, Dini Mambo Yongundu, Dini Jora Chimboyana, Tela Nopa Mambo Yongundu, Dini Nyanjak Chimboyana, Tela, Teleja Nopa Mambo Yongundu, Samala Nopan Dramada Mambo Yongari, Dini Gatsu. Jiju menken ke pena teni ta kamba mesa ta teni ko chambo rao woron rao teni na tela no pa mombo yong no pa mesa musti yo mares.
If you think about it, you can clearly see that no one is able to achieve this situation. Even the rich, the powerful, and the famous, no one is able to achieve this. People who are rich still experience suffering and harm, as do the powerful, as do the famous. All of these people experience harm of different kinds. Even homeless people, people with no money whatsoever, experience harm and suffering. So there is no one who is able to be without these things.
Teni no pa zo mabzo te ngasola thyo marze jamba te sola thyo marze pena jamba so teni ngasola no pa yongya ga leka leya gaja tin dramada teni shaya so chunjun che gona wangcha ngaso yo mara wangcha koso yo res.
And in terms of attempting to control the harm that we suffer, if we locate this with other people, so the things they do and the things they say, we won't be able to control it because the power lies with them rather than ourselves.
Yina teni no pa te so dumri yong da mayong te so so rang teni wangchari te so rang teni chunjun she thap gore te nga so rang la thak ndo ji dumri yong mayong te teni khakare je no pa she pa tang dumri yong ya mi jamba za nga so la no pa she pa tang teni no pa te la teni nga so la dumri yong ya teni khakare je teni chigre mandu.
However, whether or not these sources of harm produce suffering in us is something that we can control ourselves. So we have to appreciate that they are different, that they are separate. Harm is one thing, or actions that produce harm is one thing. The experience of suffering is another. So another may do something that causes us harm, but suffering is something that arises in ourselves. These two are separate.
Teni ngaso lojung ko teni nyamnen yapo yongken ko teni mit sola yena teni kosola teni nopa chimbo yong ikawena nopa chungchung yong ikawena namgin kwaranso teni sem ko tola teni gamo chopo par tambo sheni teni dethap kandus.
For really strong and experienced lobjong or mind training practitioners, then regardless of what harm arises, whether it's or suffering arises, whether it's big or small, they are able to continue to rest in a state of happiness and stability.
Teni din alata ngaso teni hago goya teni gimsen chingdos.
And there's a reason for this that we need to understand.
Teni hago goya ga naton chide kan rezina te ngaso la no pa chongchong ziona ta ngaso go sem go thola teni te jichi tane o ta ngarang teni di nga no pa chegen sam teni te dumur te la san no tane ta ngarang dumur chegen din no pa nga kina te nga ki boyong go mod ti nga no pa chimbo chegen sam ne teni so sem ga na la dumur shiv jana teni no pa chongchong jambo yenna teni chichi rondus dumur chichi rondus.
And this one point that needs to be understood is that if some small occurrence takes place, but in our minds we think, oh, this is causing me great suffering, it's preventing me from being happy, it's causing me harm, etc., then thinking in this way makes the suffering only become bigger and bigger.
Teni pe jana ngaso me jamba chika teni ngaso la muk teni tawi kaps 나랑라 되니 배나 코랑 코 배나 콩초 샘그 콩초 요 받든지라 보고 먹그 되니 ngasola 되니 답잖아 되니 직시나 코랑 오니 ngasola 되니 마르가 콩초 직시나 인기 말에 강터 나랑 ರಂಗ 삼나 어디 머디가 가그머드 머디가 되니 따땅 두부지근데 되니 삼니 텔라 삼로탄나 되니 나랑 그 샘가나라 dumur 지신로 온도스.
So an example would be if someone looks at us with an angry expression in their eyes. It's possible that the person really is angry with us or doesn't like us. It's also possible that this isn't the case. However, if we think to ourselves at this time, oh, this person doesn't like me, they have a dim view of me, etc., then the suffering or negative feeling in our minds will only become greater.
되니양 대저 등머티니 노파티니 침본라고 된디 있나요? 되니 가서 샘거 나라 어디지 경고요 말에 다대지 된디 나던 침보지 말에 강터 가서 탑시요래 교요 말에서 된디 삼 주잖아. 되니 티 등머티 가서라 노파 침보시 티 노파티 가서라 등머티 침보시 탑고만 등머티 제총로 도우지.
And by the same token, if we experience or encounter some great form of suffering, if we think, oh, look, it's okay, it's no problem, I've got a way for dealing with it, then even though the harm may take place, the suffering that comes with it will only become smaller.
되니 가서 락바가 나라 되니 빡빡대지 특보래지 특보 임비 점선지 가서 되니 무보 간거 돌아 자나야 되니 가서 락바가 나라 등머리 침보 끼특고요 말해서.
Because the skin on our hands is relatively thick, we can touch a lot of things without experiencing a sensation of pain.
되니 니마치글라 가서 되니 락바가 나라 되니 마즈조잖아. 되니 마티야르테 작용 위값스 되니 티나라 되니 빡빡 되니 섭섭 되니 착거래.
If we were to hurt our hand, say to get a cut on our hand, then as it slowly heals, the skin at the place of this sore becomes very thin and tender.
되니 티 빡빡 섭섭 되니 가서 되니 건거 돌아키나다 할리바 차보 나보 되니 용 그래서.
And if we were to touch any kind of object at that place where the skin is very sore and tender, it would produce a painful feeling.
되니 티 우분도 코랑 찍마도요 말에 나랑 팔 특사디 찍마도요 말에다 이나 트야가 락바가 되니 빡빡 특부 임바당 섭섭 임비 염선지 내가랑가 락바가 나라 등을 자가 말해서.
In actual fact, the object that I'm touching has not changed at all. It's exactly the same object. However, whether or not the feeling of touching it produces suffering depends on the skin on my hand, whether it is thick or thin.
되니 가서 그 샘대 되니 더 락바가는 그 빡빡 특분라고 된디지니 용들시고 도스.
So we need to practice or to train in making our minds thick like the skin of our hands.
되니 가서 샘대 되니 빡빡 쌉서라고 된디지 장나 되니 무포 건거에 나가서 샘라 등을 째거도스.
Because if our minds are like the thin skin on our hands, then regardless of what we encounter, it will produce suffering.
되니 가서 샘대 되니 락바가는 그 빡빡 특분라고 된디 착성나 되니 가서 소화가 나라 요비 무포 망보스 되니 가서라 등을 째탑고 만두스.
If our mind can become thick like the skin of our hands, however, then all kinds of objects that we encounter will not be able to generate suffering.
되니 던지인디 가서 미르글라 되니 좋아 미르글라 되니 가서 등을 매파시야가 되니 탑신이 되니 삼로탄 거 여래서 만남지.
So as humans, there are two ways that we need to think of in terms of getting rid of suffering.
되니 탑시 지대 강에서나 나랑 건 소화가 나라 때 나랑라 노바 신경 거더니 심진이 난다 심진 마인 바에 난다 참아 매파시니 직경 매파시니 되니 나랑 데모치 보시니 내 인삼이 삼로 지대 디리스.
So the first of these ways would be to get rid of every single thing, whether person or non-person, etc., in our lives that causes us suffering. And this approach would be one where we would imagine happiness as resulting if we were to get rid of everything that causes harm.
Tini te ngachu norwarese. Te tsavani yung manduk tsavani yung sig manduk te.
But this is a mistaken way of thinking. This is not possible for this to actually manifest.
Tini nipati kangrese na ta nga sun soang nala kari na imai me ngarang sim yar gitang gyen. Tini sim yar gitang sona tin jambach kari na kyung mare samni tindi sam kan yores.
The second way of thinking would be, well, regardless of what harm exists, the most important thing is for me to improve my mind. This is the second way of thinking.
Tani te karti nyamlin pe yagbo yosona tindi she thap kore pe na jibzam malari patavre she thap kores.
And in terms of this second way of thinking, if we practice enough well, it is certainly possible for us to manifest this in reality, such as Milarepa, for example, was able to practice and train his mind in this way. But for us to achieve the level of him might be a bit difficult. So what should we do then? Well, we should take a little from both ways, a little from both approaches. Generally, we do need material objects. However, if our attachment and clinging to them is excessive or too excessive, then we will only experience suffering and happiness will not arise. And at the same time as this, we need to make changes at the level of our mind, work on controlling our minds. So the path that we need to take is one that combines both approaches. So if we are going to take a path that combines both approaches, well, in terms of the first approach, that of making change at the material or external level, I'm not going to talk about that today because everyone knows very well how to do it. What I would like to teach on today is how we go about taking care of our minds. So the first step is starting off at a very simple level and then working up from here. And the most important point here is for us to not have fear for suffering. We should not, or we can't be scared of suffering. Of course, many people would say, why should we not be afraid of suffering? Of course, we should be scared. Suffering causes us harm. However, if we do fear suffering, then the extent to which we fear it will bring a corresponding degree of suffering. And the same as those objects or things in our lives that cause us harm. The more we fear them, the more they cause us suffering. So the more that we, or the less we fear suffering, the potential harm that it presents to us becomes less or decreases.
Teni no panjada mra mambo te so chama la nga so teni dumur ka samlo ke ni on di jang la no pa chegen du samne te la samlo tang sem gna la ma ki pa yong yang jamba di jang nga dumur ke kan du di no pa yong du samni teni ta ta shena teni namjig na nga so on choa na la teni yopi ngupo so chama teni manjik panda wota mare panda wo so so rang la dumur ke ya teni ta ta ren ro ndu.
If we think in terms of those objects or people or things that cause us harm, that we habituate ourselves to thinking that they cause us suffering, that their suffering brings us unhappiness, etc., and continue to think in this way, then one day we will reach a point where nothing in our lives is right, nothing in our lives is good, and this will bring us suffering.
Teni tindri chapi kapsa teni nga tsu choa ga na la yopi mu yin nan ra chobo yin nan ra teni nga tsu ngupo teni soso pesho tanga ngupo chal ga yin nan ra te so chama teni ta on de yang te jing ru mun du de yang che re mun du sam ba teni tak tak cha ne teni te so dung mar mambo kin ne teni devi kor ka tsa ne me ba teni chang ro du.
Thinking in this way, we'll reach a point where all the people in our lives, our friends, the objects, the things we use, we will think that, oh, this is not good, that's not right, and this will cause us suffering. And we will result in a situation where we lose our opportunity for happiness.
Teni tindri nani teni devi kor ka mani ba tindri re re te indi teni nga so sem go thola te yargi tana teni no pa ta tarong ya yong gore mangbo yo re ta yena no pa te so dumur zo mata pa teni zi yong gore te indi nga so gomba tambo jongder te teni gonz go lagling go thola chi yo go dus.
So in order for us not to lose our opportunity for happiness, we need to improve our minds. And by doing this, even though harm may continue to occur, the suffering that comes with it will not. So this, we need to start off at the first step of practice.
Teni nga so terani zonte teni nyama terani zonte nga so choa ga na la te nga so changma ga teni chorta zushina peyak bore jongder zushina yana chorta zushina nga so lamsang ha ko res.
So if from today onwards all of us are able to do an experiment in our lives or a kind of exercise, then we will immediately understand.
Teni jongder te kare resina te nga so choa ga na la teni so teni semla manjowa teni yet mogongwa teni ngopon nam channa teni 대랑 찬다 산님 찬다 디 값스 가서 셈거 나라 때 나던 친구 말에 때 경거 말에 때 나랑 탁주시 탑거래 때디 딘디견 친구지 말이 삼니 견때 강이나 때 충충다 뇽뇽다 딘디 그더니 따땅 셈거 땅니 딘디 그 남지를 그 돈이 따나 딘디 등머티 가서라 노파사가네 조마서 셈머치 밥 조마서 바딘디 람상 용거레시 때 가서 람상 랄린 탑고도.
And what is this practice or what is this training that we need to do? Well, whenever we encounter any object that is unpleasant or something that we don't like, we immediately need to adopt the attitude, this is no big deal, it's no problem, I can cope with it, I can deal with it. And so by taking an attitude that makes this source of harm small or diminished, then the suffering that it brings us will not arise. It won't be able to harm us. So it's necessary that we take this immediate approach in terms of our attitude. So in this text that we're looking at today, there are many different methods for eliminating suffering. So in this morning's teaching, we're just looking at one of these methods. And this method is an extremely easy one. Of course, in saying it's easy, what I mean is it's easy in theory, but it's certainly not easy in practice.
나저 카가 파르랍거나 뺄래 라보레스.
Talking about it in words is extremely easy.
되니 동거 돌아 랑림시거나 대즈 갑리 요리다. 이나 나저 랑림시 마타반다고 된디 말레스.
In practice, it's a little bit difficult, but it's certainly not the case that it's not something we're able to practice.
되니 남들이 가서 등어당 찾나 되니 등어당 찾기 값을 되니 땅아 등어당 메고 등어당 가랑 요나 되니 땅 가랑 란디 노바 몸보조 삼니 등어 파르티니 도야 야제나 쥐쥐 파르 도야 대자와네 신양 그만 도세 셈거 토네.
So what we by all means should not do is when we encounter sources of potential suffering is resist them, try to keep them away from us.
답배 장난 가서 너래봐. ник 탁바 락바 찍도 미 잠바스 그 종나 되니 찍도 나랑 그 종나 되니 나랑 건텐 되니 텐나 할리바 식침복은 텐냐 그 문득지 텐나 코랑 그 땅을 장나 때 나랑 라더니 노바 침부 저그레스.
So an example would be this rubber cord that Kempo has in his hand. In pulling on it, he can't afford to pull too hard because the person who holds the other end in their hand, if they were to let go, it would spring back and hit his hand and hurt it.
되니 디값은 가서 태야가 식도 감지스 치나 되니스 그 나랑 갈락발라 나무조 루즈.
In this case, however hard Kempo were to pull the cord, would produce a corresponding feeling of pain when it snaps back.
되니 디값은 미 잠바가 파르 텐나 가서 대즈 파르 쏟고 루즈.
So in this situation, if someone is pulling on the other end, one needs to loosen one's own grasp.
다 딘자 보즈 그 가서라 되니 등으로서 용이 값은 가서 셈대즈 호보시네 다 경고 말에 나돈 딘디 전부요 말에 딘디 삼고 그래서.
So in just the same way, when some potential source of suffering arises, we should take a relaxed frame of mind, thinking, oh, it's no big deal, it's okay.
옛날에 가서 가르쳐 그러잖아. 셈고 돌아 등물 마용과 탑시 딘디시고 그래서 그래 마토바 나돈 가서 탁주시고 말에 대경고 말에 이적 딘디 삼대 말에 나돈 탁주시고 그래서 돈 닦아놓나 거랑 돈고 돌아 탁주시고 그래서.
So in saying that we need to rely on a method to prevent suffering arising in our minds, we are not saying that we therefore don't need to address whatever the external problem is. Of course, we still need to go about addressing it.
배나가서 되니 돈닥지 돈고 돌아더니 돈닥지 송소나 아주 셈고 돌아 대경고 말에 삼네 되니 의장나 즉시나 돈닥대 침보래 오나 하고 말에 되인디 돈고 돌아 탁주 제고 그래 더고 말에 가서 제가 말해.
For example, if some issue were to take place, if we were to say, oh, no problem, and just cast it aside, it's possible that the problem or the issue may get bigger or more serious. So whatever the situation is, we still need to address it. We're not saying that that is not necessary.
이나 가서 탑신들 라떼니 되니 셈고 돈이 등물도서 참아 매바차 그래지니 더제요 그래서.
What is being said, though, that there is a method we can use and that we should use in order for suffering not to arise in our mind.
어때인디 되니 당보 가서라 노파 강당 강쇼나 되니 조샤가 노파이나 자 되니 때 마임바가 미 노파이나 자 되니 노파도 쇼이 값어 당한 노반데 나랑라 등을 침보리 발 매바시고 되니 마선바시 가서 셈그 돈이 당림시네 때 노파디 용근도 때 대경고 말에 때든지 참침보 말에 삼니 서 당들 레야데 때 용들 당보 데데레서 가서 용 공바 당보 데데레서.
So the first important step is whenever suffering takes place or when it takes place, whether it be animal or human-induced suffering, we should not think, oh, I need to get rid of this cause of suffering. What we need to do is to accept it, to acknowledge, yes, this suffering is happening, and think, no, this is big deal, and think this is no big deal. So we need to first accept the suffering, and this is the first step in our training.
되는 가서 낭추고 나라에 나더니 코와 가서 소화가 나라 등을 망보 열에 손에 더 미 등을 망보즈 송고요레진 소화가 등을 망보즈 송고요레진.
So in the Buddhist teachings, it is frequently said how much suffering there is in our samsaric existences.
Teni ngaso min sowa na teni dewa tang kipa teni yore to tsavani yo marizini nangchu te zego mariz.
However, in addition to the suffering in human existences, there is also some happiness as well. So the Buddhist teachings don't deny some amount of happiness in human existences either.
Ina teni dewa tang kipa ta tso ko to mambo shakyo mar mambo songyo mariz so to dumur ko to mambo songyo mariz.
However, the Buddhist teachings don't have so much to say about happiness and pleasure. They have far much more to say about suffering.
Teni ti gimsante kangrezina ngaso teni tambo ngaso min sowa na la dumri yopati hako gondus.
And the reason for this is that, firstly, people need to realize that there is suffering in human existence.
Teni te hako sawi jini teni ngaso sosogo ti takjut 간디셰 고레 티 등거데 테니 타 마용와 간디셰 고온데 어디 삼로탕구 셔티 쳇레스.
And then in realizing or understanding that there is a lot of suffering in human existence, the next step is to look about resolving, how to go about resolving or addressing this suffering, removing this suffering.
테니 등머크 나니 타르바 톱고소네 테니 송고요레스.
And then, in addition to this, the Buddhist teachings talk about how we achieve liberation from suffering.
Teni dumurk nani tharwa thopzeati kandis zegrezina pena ngaso teni mi jamba cho ngaso la sawani teni nopa muzo phamba chikpo teni dribdeya teni ungpo ngaso nyinkhor la yo pi ungpo chama teni soso rangla phamba dribya tadak mato teni dumur teni dumkhan teni chikyang mepa zuni teni zgnani teni nga dumur gnani tharwa thopkin teni zeyo mares.
So what is meant by the saying liberation from suffering? Does it mean to establish a situation where there is no one in our life that causes us harm, there are only people in our lives that cause us benefit, where all objects do us good, none of them cause us suffering? No, this is not what is meant by liberation from suffering. For example, in the life of the Buddha, there were a great deal of people who caused him harm. So there are a lot of people who cause us harm and suffering, but this is we are not when we talk about achieving liberation from suffering, we're not talking about achieving liberation from these kinds of people. However, if we can achieve a situation where harm or causes of harm continue to exist, yet despite this, these sources of harm are not able to cause us suffering, we are able to prevent them cause us suffering and achieve a situation where they do not cause us suffering, then we have achieved liberation from suffering as this is intended to be meant in the Buddhist teachings.
Tani ta ngaso tari kong du shesong ngaso pe na ngaso deni semde pe na ngaso lakpa na ni tani pakpan thpun ra odi condition na chakare tani arma zo ni pakpa samun ra odi ngaso semde kandi nature kandis ko la ngaso lakpa na ni tani arma zo pi jini tani kibi pakpa chamun ra poti chakare kandi nature kandis ko la ngaso semde tani chakare te ha ko gondu.
So it's necessary for us to understand in what kind of conditions is the skin on our hand thick, or are our minds like the thick skin on our hands, and in what conditions do our minds become like the thin and tender skin on our hands after we have sustained an injury.
Te kandis ko la tindi chakare zena 때 가서라 등물라 하장 짝네 되니 네 노발라 하장 짝네 다티 노바티 용나 때 나께 보레 그만도 나 등물 때 근데 삼네 든지 삼로 mambo tangna di neser ti ola teni nga so semti lakba nang ka pakpa chamu raw teni ti chang raw duzi.
The circumstances in which our minds become like the thin skin on our hands are precisely when we have great fear for harm and fear for suffering. When we think over and over, oh, this is causing me harm and suffering, I don't like it, it's not allowing me to be happy, etc. It's in circumstances such as these that our minds become like thin skin on our palms.
Teni tindi chaksawi tini semda tindi chaksawi jini tini nga so nopa chungchung ma to go mend tini sem kana la lep charti nopa chungchung zi na sem kana la lep charti tini dumur chimbo che yong ngus.
Once our minds become like this, then we only need a very small instance of suffering to take place, to arrive, and the suffering that it generates becomes very big.
Teni neser kandis go ola ngaso sem tepe na lakba na ni pakpa chabu ndaw chakaduzi neser kandis go ola te ko gondus.
So in what kind of situation can our mind become thick, or can our minds become like the thick skin on our hands?
Teni ngaso dumur kandang kangla na machak bashini dumur kangla na machak bashi tan sowa na landiti ta mambu yore tenti tet yongre inna teni te kyong mari nyamni dumur te so tandlem bata dumur la machak bashi thamna teni rembe ngaso simde paunda teni chakong ndus.
And the circumstances in which our minds become like thick skin on our hands is when we have no fear for whatever harm or suffering should arise. When we are able to think, oh, look, harm is taking place, suffering is happening, but no problem. When we are able to accept it and have no fear for it. In such a situation, our minds will become like skin gradually becoming more thicker.
Teni ngaso terangni zongti teni laling gatola teni ti zongder chikshe go ndus.
So from today onwards, there's one training that all of us need to do.
Ngaso de nopa kangla thugna nopa la teni chapi kaps teni ngaso ti nopa te mar sim gatola ngaso sim yar paushini sim tukini kyongo mare ti kyongo mare ti natun chimbo mare te me thakchi tabkare te tendin rawo ta mangbo yore samne me dungur de tang de lengyen kyo me samne tendus sam go de te jondr karchin ziris.
And this training is that whenever we encounter suffering and whatever kind of suffering or harm we encounter, we need to give rise to a courageous mindset and think, well, I can deal with this, I can cope with this, I can accept suffering. This is an extremely important training.
Tengaso nangchu nangla na nyamnin chigrezi teni paror to shimba trik yore paror to shimba trik nani zopa.
And this is actually a method within Buddhist practice, within the 6 parameters. In the parameters, there is the perfection of patience or forbearance, and this is exactly that.
Teni ti kapse teni ngaso to nungbo tola neserchi teni tongoreze kangrezina ngaso dumur de teni chongchongre natun chimbo mare teni samni dumur tandlen jarna teni lamsang dumur de mar chechong lan ro yore te nyamnyung ko ha ko reza ngaso sama.
And at the very moment we are able to do this, something takes place. The very moment that we are able to accept suffering, then the actual suffering or accept harm, the feeling of suffering that it brings us immediately decreases. This is something that all of us can verify from our own experience.
Teni dung karti tini ngaso ti kapse sem gotone te dumur nopa mare te yong kyong mare samna dong tola dumur chimbo yo teni na panto chenyo mares.
So at a time like this, if we're able to think in our minds, oh, it's no problem, this suffering is no big deal, then even if the harm in question is significant or great, the suffering that it brings will not be.
Teni tindipshi jana teni ngapsha zina kondo tonyao. Tonyao japuri tonyao korang ka jamba tedi yong kapsa korang go shimanga na la deni korang ka mamthong na teni kyum mundik sam ko yoris.
So this is just like an ostrich. When some kind of harm is coming, the ostrich buries its head in the ground and thinks no problem.
Yeah. Tengaso tendi marisi tendi ina tengaso dungur tanglin ta dungur la donglin marisi tena teni dungur lip sholwa jagsena thobiris.
But in actual fact, this isn't the case. Doing this would not be accepting suffering; it would be avoiding suffering.
Tendi indi tengaso nangchu na la ina teni dungur la donglin shil sirta dungur donglin shil sirka teni te sob ko yore ma to ba dungur la yul dungur la truji to sob ko yomare truna trusa yomares.
So what we do need to study and learn are the Buddhist methods for accepting suffering, for taking on suffering, not for avoiding and escaping it.
Tengaso nangchu na la te mambo song du ze te ngarang pe na ngarang dungur me sa sa tindislan ro yin samni tindisamna te chishina korang ko tini dungur pe na ngaso nga zamazaya me ni ngarang dungur tini nyongko yona o ta nga zamaza sa yosa tindislan ro yin samni tindisona zamazaya me pi dungur te chishina me pa shithap kare kyong zamaza jara kare reti dungur jamba mangbo yong kare tindi indi ngaso dungur la truni dungur sawana me pi sa tindislan ro yin zena
Many Buddhist teachings emphasize how if we say, oh, we're going to go to somewhere where there's no suffering, well, let's just say we are in a place where there's no food and we experience the suffering of hunger, then yes, it's possible if we go somewhere where there is food that we may address or resolve the suffering associated with having no food, but there will be other forms of suffering. So seeking to escape somewhere else so as not to have suffering is not considered a viable approach.
Teni pe jana nyemastigla teni ngacho mangkhang kanala drone teni lipola teni takshishi pi ne kapse teni karte mamba o teni kyorang nat teni to jujime ba juden o nganchen da po teni teni to rendu zeni teni yona teni mangkhang ko teni to yige de ngacho ko teni mukun thongi kapse o teni ta di karte ngacho semganala jabjug mena
So an example would be if one day we were to go to a hospital, to the hospital for a medical examination and were to be informed that we had developed a terminal incurable illness. Well, if we had no mental preparation, then the moment that we saw the piece of paper that stated this was the case would cause us great suffering.
Teni tambu ne kapsa teni ngaso musdang slayena o ta ngarang la teni parmanchu shi matepitini nazyo sare ngarang jokbo shijin sare ngarang la tserang boyo samari teni samsona teni tambu kapsa musdang slayena teni chorwa dumur teni yongres tambu.
If, however, we had become used to thinking that, oh, well, we've got an incurable illness, we're probably going to die, etc. Well, perhaps at the outset, when we received the news, we would feel suffering. Anyone probably would.
Yena teni gomba tambu ne kabla chorwa teni yongoreda gomba nipani teni kakachangro oreze nyamlin yakbo yongkhensi yena o korang sem ko tola ndingni o ta kyong ko mare 탑시 여리 삼네 딘디시 디디 코랑 람상 셈톡 등을 상마 메바 차카레스.
However, the next step would be for a stable or good practitioner for that suffering to subside. They would immediately think, no problem, I've got a way for dealing with this, and then their suffering would disappear.
Deni 셈톡네 deni 등을 메바다 deni 착소나 deni korang ke lipolayang deni pantok yo chishina korang yin rambu taro mamba loching matong de thap ko marezena lobcha nga deni mambundu ase deni mambundu deni yendi 직시나 되니 더 코로나 경고 말해서 다티 많이 나오 티 셈토고 능물 남상 매바착거려서
And thinking like this, when the person or practitioner suffering disappears, this then has benefit for their physical bodies, such that it might be even possible for them to live for a longer time than originally estimated. It might be possible for someone who was told they only had 1 year to live for 10 or even 15 years. This is possible. However, at the very least, thinking in this way would allow their mental suffering to disappear.
되니 가서 등물데 되니 가서 땅들 랭거인 전에 되니 땅린지 거인 전에 되니 제거요 되니 땅린시 고위 점선 거래제나 되니 등물 때라양 되니 오네 샤나테 코랑라 되니 락비차 윤든 데 망부 요래.
So we talk a lot about accepting suffering and needing to accept suffering. What is the reason for this? Well, the reason is that in actual fact, in truth, suffering has a lot of positive qualities.
어떤지 인디더니 다트 소 코르텔라 가서 되니 삼로약보 땅나 되니 rembe 되니 셈거 토라 되니 지 로스톱 침범 파르니 당아 마옹발라 등물 되니 특소나야 되니 나랑가 당린 되니 시 탑사레 삼바다고 셈 시침본다고 용거래지.
And by thinking about these one by one, slowly, step by step, then our courage will increase, such that when in the future we encounter a particular kind of suffering, we will feel courageous and powerful in being able to accept it.
되니 당봉 가서 되니 김선 때 약보 디 김선 등월 때 되니 가서 당린 시장나 등월 때 제총으로 오래 삼비 김선 때 당보 약보서 가서 하고 고래 고운도지.
So the first most important thing is for us to understand properly that when we are able to accept suffering, the suffering itself decreases. It's important that we understand this reason or principle.
되니 디 김선도 하고 살위 지니 가서 간디시고 제나 남긴 가서 등물 메비 내급서 되니 용들지야 지금도 대 용들 때시 고운도지.
So once we've understood, comprehended this principle, then we need to do some practice or training in a situation where we are not confronting suffering.
어떠니 디종들 때 강레즈나 되니 가서 다르다 가서 등물 메네 되니 기포시네 되니 대요이 값스 되니 가서 삼로타네 다 마음바 나랑 건 소화가나라 노반람라 몸보 용거래 된디 용이 값스 어떠니 나랑 것더니 노파 강 쇼나요 디 등물 침보레 삼니 되니 셈거나라 된디 마시바시니 디 토라 되니 네 등물 때서 탐시 보 땅린 네 시고 삼니 셈거나라 양니 양더 다르다 삼고 그래서.
And this training is, at this present moment, or whenever we are in a situation of no suffering, when we are living happily, we need to habituate ourselves to thinking in the future there is a great deal of harm coming my way. Whenever I encounter it, I won't think to myself, "Oh, this is great suffering." I will courageously accept the suffering. We need to familiarize ourselves with this way of thinking time and time again.
되니 셈토라 되니 담장라고 되니 시고 온도스.
And we need to make a pledge of this nature in our minds.
되니 가서 된지 잡득 때 잡득이지 셈토라 된지 잡득이라고 매나 되니 등머당 차피 값서 되니 올로버다 나랑 같이 되니 당린 된지 제가 연삼나 때 값서 가서 셈데 니바 총총을 해서 된지 시고야 그 점선대 가서 하고 요랬다 동고통니 시 톱그 말이스.
So this is the preparation that we need to make, because without preparation, if we suddenly encounter some kind of suffering, our minds will be powerless and weak in confronting it. So even though we might understand in reason the need to accept suffering, we will be weak in our capacity to actually do so.
되니 때 가서 공라 되니 롱 대선 돈지 디 낭돈데 데레스.
So what I've just said now reflects the contents of the text that I read just before.
Sherdang atso nangchu nangla tini rupi zhonglu ko thola tini nyogdan rawo tini ha le pa tang zapu gorka won rawo tini yang mambo song di yores.
In the Buddhist teachings, there's a lot of theory that's extremely deep and abstruse and difficult to understand.
Ta yina di nangla tini chi nyogda tini chi mun de ha le pa tini rupi zhonglu ko thone le lapo jimsen ko thone pe le lapo tini zrez.
However, within this theory, there is no problem whatsoever. It's extremely easy and accessible to understand.
Tini ta ngaso tini chuchen de nyan chawi jini tini ngaso tini langling ko thola te go gun de.
So after we have listened to this teaching, it's necessary that we actually do some implementation in practice.
Ti langling te ni ser dona ngaso tarifsha so ni de.
And it's possible to condense the two trainings that we need to do into 2 points.
Jigdi ngaso tasta dumur me pickups tani tamja zinanda jongdershine tanga dumur tam cha pickups no ba tam cha pickups ni no ba tela dumur ta mun sabi ti ngaso kong jet sarwa teres jigdi teres.
The first training is, as we said before, in a situation without suffering. Before we have encountered suffering, we need to make a pledge by thinking that in the future, when I encounter suffering, I won't take harm as suffering.
Teni ni pa de gangrezena ta ngatsun chowa ngala teni chi no pa teni raw teni thuna no pa chimbu ta thuna ngatsu tarong teni shi thab ko mareze no pa chongchong raw tangbo ngatsu no pa chongchong ko thola jongder she gore no pa chongchong raw teni thupi kaps chapi kaps teni lamsang teni jongder she ne tan di no pa ndiri nga yongdu ta yena te kyunyo mare tente dungmer ti no pa chimbo nga teni che thab ko mare samne ti to dak chimbo mare nge thakju shi thab kore thapshi yore samne dendi shi ni lamsang teni semga nangla teni dungmer meba shi ne teni te ngaso teni jongdra ni pa te rezi te ngaso no pa tang chapi ne kbre ngama to mam chapi ne kbre.
So the first point of training is when we are not in a situation of encountering suffering. The second point of training is when we do, in fact, encounter suffering. Perhaps not suffering of a great or large kind. We're maybe not yet at that level, but certainly when we encounter small instances of suffering, immediately we should think, okay, so harm is taking place, but it's no problem. It's no big deal. I've got a way for dealing with it. And in so doing, immediately make our suffering disappear. So these are the 2 points. The first pertains to when we don't have suffering, and the second to when we do.
Teni tangbo dungmer chonchong ko thola ngaso jongder shena teni ngaso jarkan rawo thob ro reze teni jarka thob songdi te ngaso semga nala teni soso rangla teni ta ju ta chornang jagzena chengju kan chornang thobni tangi thapsare samni teni semga nala hwadang rawo lebong ko reze dungmer chonchong la teni shina.
If we start out practicing with small instances of suffering, then we will achieve victory. And upon achieving victory, we will experience a sense of achievement in our mind. A sense of achievement associated with making suffering disappear.
Teni rembe nga so no pa te chimbon ra wat so la teni shina teni te mepa shi thap kare se dungmer mepa.
And then gradually we can start to work with increasingly large forms of suffering such that we will be able to make the suffering disappear in these situations too.
Oda tanang ngacho kapsu teni zu yin teni jamba cho ngacho shito mon teni shakare.
So that concludes our teaching on this text for the morning. We'll continue with it in our afternoon session.
But this virtue may achieve emanations by defeating all enemies. Confusion may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, cross the ocean of samsara.